Faith is being able to move on a maybe. And you know what that means? It's 50-50. It might not work, but God is always working. I'm confident in the second, even when I'm not certain in the first. And it takes the kind of faith, church, to say, maybe if I do this, maybe, and maybe it won't. And maybe God will use this thing that I think I'm supposed to do to lead to something that I was really supposed to do, so that even if the first thing fails, at least I'm not sitting still in fear, but it takes faith to move on a maybe. When Urim has gone dark and Saul is under a tree and you don't know what to do but to move toward it, God says, move toward it. It may work, and even if it doesn't, I will. It is the power to move on a maybe, to know that God is mystery, but He is revealed. His character is trustworthy. I can move on a maybe. Father, I don't want to do this, but nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. So I'm going to go see about this. And maybe, somebody shout, maybe. Maybe. I've got a maybe faith. Enough faith to do it and not know the conclusion, but trust God in the process. It's a maybe faith. I'm confident. I'm not certain, but I'm confident. And you will find yourself many times in your life in a maybe moment. Some of you are there right now. It's a maybe moment for you. Maybe you are giving yourself to a marriage that you don't know if it can live, like Ezekiel in the valley of bones. You don't even know if anything's going to happen, but you're prophesying and speaking forth and believing God to send the winds, and you're living in the maybe moment. Maybe if we start a church. Maybe I know who God is, and I know nothing can stop Him, but it's 50-50, man. You want to do it anyway? Maybe. The miracle is in the maybe. I wish I could preach this to every discouraged heart today. God lives in a place called maybe. Faith lives in a place called maybe. So if you are in a maybe moment today, that's where God lives. Stand up. When you're in that maybe moment, and if you are, you know it. And if you're not, you will need this message within the next 6 weeks, because life is full of maybe moments. You will feel in that moment the coexistence of uncertainty and confidence. And you'll feel like you're making it up as you go. I like that image because Jonathan said, climb up after me. Climb up after me. I was thinking about how they made it up as they went. But I had to go. I had to do it. I had to trust God in a maybe moment. Maybe moments are like the moment where you could look stupid. Maybe moments are the moments where you could be rejected. Most of us aren't facing Philistines and thorny, slippery cliffs and geographical obstacles. Most of us are facing things that are on the inside of us that seem insurmountable. And God is in the maybe moment of your life when you move forward anyway. When I stopped by my dad's house and gave him the letter on Father's Day after we had not spoken in months, because I moved him to Charlotte when his health got bad with my mom, because he asked me to. And I told him, I said, Dad, I want to do this for you. You're my dad. I want to take care of you. And we didn't know that he had ALS yet. We just knew that he was very sick. And because he was a self-employed barber, I didn't know, if he was just, honestly, my dad at that point in his life was so illogical and irrational. I didn't know if it was a good idea or not, but I knew my dad was asking me for help, and I knew that something was wrong. And when he asked me to do it, I knew something inside of me knew like this could turn out really bad. You know, like I told my dad, I said, you live 3.5 hours away from me right now, and that works pretty good for us. If you come up and we're all up in each other's space, you know, it might not be good. And he said, I need you to do this for me. And I said, I'll never forget telling him, you know, I don't even think this is a good idea, but I'm gonna do it. You asked me to, and I love you. But please, when you come up here, please, when you come live in Charlotte, I knew my mom would be fine. She's great. But I was like, please don't do any of this crazy stuff. And honest to God, no sooner than I sent the moving company to give him an estimate, he chased the moving company out of the yard with his walking cane. I mean, this guy, he was a good dad for a lot of my life, but by this point, his medications, as well as his physical condition, he was starting to really lose his mind. But I knew I needed to move him anyway. And it didn't make sense at that point. In fact, when he got here, when he finally moved, after running off the moving company, after he finally found a moving company that was fit to move him, and I went to go see him and check on him in the house that we had found for them, first thing he did when I walked in the door was complain about the house. When I tell you that I said some Hebrew words and some Greek words, some Monk's Corner words, some compound cuss words, and it was like over the next few months, every bad thing that I thought was gonna happen if I tried to do the right thing start happening. And what was the weird contrast was my ministry was going so great and the church was growing, and my dad and the way he treated my mom, and eventually he left, he went to go live by himself. It was like culminated in this horrible, like the worst Thanksgiving ever, where we went to see him. The only place he would live was in this nursing home. And they had him calling bingo in the nursing home. And yeah, it's okay, you can laugh about it, because it was like, how did we come to this? Like, how can they not even live together? How did we spend all this money and all this time, and he raised me all this time and coached my teams and all this, and then it's gonna end like this. When we would try to talk on the phone, he would end up yelling, I would end up yelling, and then I'd end up preaching, and then I'd go back and talk to my dad, and I'd end up yelling, and he would end up yelling. But when I went by his house on Father's Day, I thought, well, maybe if I write down, I took a notebook and I told Holly, can you drive for me for a minute? We were coming back from a family trip, and I said, I need to do something real quick. Can you drive for me? And can we stop by my dad's house? He was living all alone at that time by his own choice. And I sat there while Holly drove, and I wrote down a memory for every year that I had been alive of him being my dad. Because I knew we couldn't talk, but I thought, well, maybe if we could just communicate in writing. And when we showed up at the house and he opened the door, I kind of like threw the list at him, you know, like, Happy Father's Day. Made a list for you. Because maybe this is a dumb idea, but maybe it could open a door for us to have a relationship. It's the maybe moments, you know. If I'm gonna tell you about my maybe moments that result in starting a church that reaches the world, I think I owe it to you to tell you about my maybe moments that were messy too. It's not always so clear, it's not always so perfect, it's not always so brilliant, it's not always so strategic. Life is lived in those maybe moments. And so I got to sit beside him as he breathed his last breath. After 3 days that hospice had been in, much later, after a progression where my mom graciously let him back in the house and cared for him until he died. And I got to be there reading to him from Charles Spurgeon's sermon, The Peaceful Sleep of the Beloved, after I sang to him the Old Rugged Cross. And I thought he was gonna pass quickly, but he stayed around like 3 days, and I ran out of hymns and started having to sing James Taylor and Hootie and the Blowfish. I mean, I was there for all of it in that moment because of moving forward with a maybe. I believe God sent me with this message today, and I'm over time. I'm so over time. It's gonna be awful in the parking lot in the rain, and God forgive me, and please smile at people on the way out and tell them it's gonna be worth it. But please listen to me. Listen to me. You're in a maybe moment. You're in a maybe moment. Slippery on one side, thorny on the other. Don't have everybody with you thought you'd have with you. Just got an armor bearer. Father, I pray today for the faith for your people to move forward on a maybe. In this moment, you are the God of all wisdom. You are the God who sees all, knows all, and can do anything. I thank you, Lord, that there are miracles emerging even now as I speak, in bodies, in relationships, in careers, in families. God, I thank you that ministry is birthed out of maybe. We thank you, God, for giving us the Holy Spirit inside of us. We thank you for giving us the finished work of your Son to let us know that you are good and you do good and all things work together for the good of them that love you. I speak over every maybe situation. Give your people now, by your grace, the kind of faith that it takes to move forth in a maybe. For we believe that nothing can hinder you from saving, whether by many or by few.
Hey, thanks for stopping by my YouTube channel. I hope you were blessed today. If you were, share this with somebody. Like and subscribe and leave me a comment. Let me know where you're watching from, what we can pray for you about. Hope to see you back here again really soon.